In this fortnight's episode, why income inequality is a good thing. What's in the news with stories on the IRS erasing data yet again, Comfyballs underwear, Blizzard news, and government-funded child porn and theft, and an Ancap Apps segment on a new free altcoin wallet with awesome features.
Welcome to the Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. Coming to you from the state that is the home of the very first alarm clock, this is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Revolution needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at the Lava Flow Pod. This is episode 29, the Inequality is Awesome edition, and it's Tuesday, February 2nd, 2015, when we've had more than 71 people killed by police already this year. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. Income inequality is generally seen as an evil in our society today for some reason. This was one of the main issues of the Occupy movement, that somehow it was unfair that the 1% had more than the 99%. While that 99% talked on their Apple iPhones and surfed the web on their Apple MacBooks. What they didn't understand is this. If it weren't for income equality, if it weren't for that 1%, they wouldn't have the iPhones and the MacBooks and many of the other items that they use on a daily basis. It is precisely the desire to become wealthy that brings about most invention and innovation. Speaking of Apple, let's take Steve Jobs, for example. Without his incentive to become wealthier, he may never have invented the iPhone. And when he did invent the iPhone and cornered the smartphone market, he could have raised prices to just about anything that he wanted to. But instead, he lowered prices to get the iPhone in the hands of more people and to try and shut out the competition. There was no downside to consumers at all, even for the poorest among us. Because now even the poor had an opportunity to purchase an iPhone at a reasonable price. This only made the lives of the poor better and increases the wealth of the poor. This was in no way oppressive to the poor at all. It was a voluntary transaction. There are many benefits to wealth inequality. The U.S. has arguably the highest wealth inequality in the world, yet the majority of Americans are in the wealthiest 1% in the world. Anyone making over $34,000 annually are in the top 1% of wage earners in the world. And the median income in the U.S. is $51,939 annually. So while we do have the highest percentage of wealthy people, we also have the highest percentage of people in the top 1% of income earners in the world. This, my friends, is a good thing. Another benefit of wealth inequality is that it breeds a desire to excel, to be exceptional, so that you can hopefully one day be wealthy yourself. Let's look at Sweden, which has long enjoyed a reputation as the global exemplar for income, gender, and social equality, driven largely by a tax and welfare system that modulates any extremes of economic success or failure. Sweden goes so far as to brag about their high taxes, saying, quote, Sweden is as noted for its high personal taxes as it is for IKEA furniture and ABBA, end quote, on a Swedish government website. In spite of this, and with massive tax money being poured into their school system, the Swedish government asked the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, to investigate why their schools were failing miserably. By failing, I am talking about their dropping ratings in international test scores, their massive truancy issues, and general classroom disorder. Quote, Sweden's student performance has declined in all key domains of literacy, numeracy, and science, says the recently released OECD report. No country has fallen as far or as fast as Sweden. How can this be when Sweden spends a much greater portion of its GDP on education than the world average? The OECD report was clear. As Canadian Business Magazine says, quote, those high taxes necessary to equalize income across high and low-skilled occupations, plus the effects of the welfare state, may not provide sufficient incentive for learning and working hard. As a result, the importance placed on equality in Swedish society may have had the unintended effect of not challenging all students sufficiently. If everyone is equal, no one will ever be exceptional. Even more worrisome, this lack of interest and academic effort appears to have started at home. Swedish parents' expectations of their children may not be sufficiently high, the OECD report warns. The high proportion of students with truancy issues may support such a hypothesis. OECD researchers arrived looking for solutions to Sweden's poor test scores. They left concluding that the country is suffering from a severe case of national apathy, brought on by an obsession with eliminating income disparity. Given that the OECD has produced several reports criticizing rising levels of inequality in the past, it seems an especially striking conclusion. Having spent generations idealizing equality and punishing high-skilled, high-income earners with punitive tax rates, it's entirely plausible that Swedish kids and their parents would finally realize education, ability, and work ethic are irrelevant to success in adulthood. Why work hard or even show up for school on time if you know that everyone ends up equal in the end? If this becomes a permanent state of affairs, will pose an existential threat to the Swedish economy. What do you think would have happened if Bill Gates or Steve Jobs had been born in Sweden recently? Do you think we would have Windows or iPhones? Probably not, as their incentive to inspire to greatness would be severely diminished by knowing that they would be destined to equality. How sad would the world be today without a Bill Gates or a Steve Jobs or a Tom Edison or an Alexander Graham Bell or a Henry Ford or any number of other inventors who had a financial incentive to bring their inventions to market? This market incentive is one major reason that we have seen such innovation in such a short period of time as we have seen in the last 200 years. Take a look at the Forbes 400 list of the wealthiest Americans. About half of them made the list because they are entrepreneurs who have very successful companies due to hard work and a little luck. It is not equality that we should value, but opportunity. Equality breeds a lack of reaching for success, while opportunity breeds what we really want: innovation, efficiency, and hard work. It is not inequality that we should strive to eradicate. It is poverty. Reducing poverty is much easier to do in a society where the creation of wealth is encouraged, not discouraged. Wealth is not static. There is not a single pie of wealth that everyone must get a slice of. The pool of wealth in the world is ever increasing as it is created through innovation, technology, and invention. As the wealthy get more wealthy, so do the poor get a bit wealthier as well. In a time and place like modern America, where the poor have things like televisions, cell phones, and cars, and air conditioner, instead of striving to lower inequality in America, we should strive to export this type of inequality to the rest of the world. Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In their above the law news, despite a court preservation order, the IRS erased a hard drive belonging to a former top employee involved in the agency's controversial tax-funded hiring of elite trial law firm Quinn Emanuel. The preservation order was born of a Freedom of Information request submitted by Microsoft. The deleted hard drive belonged to the agency's former director of transfer pricing operations at the IRS Large Business and International Division, likely a key employee involved in the controversy. It is not known if there is any way to recover documents belonging to this employee. This is, of course, not the first time that the agency has failed to preserve key information. The IRS also accidentally destroyed the hard drive belonging to Lois Lerner during investigations into the targeting of conservative groups. As many as 24,000 emails were lost forever when 422 backup tapes were wiped clean despite an agency-wide preservation order and congressional subpoena. Now it appears that important information has once again disappeared because of IRS corruption, incompetence, or likely both. And of course this happened again, and it's easy to figure out why. When they deleted Lois Lerner's emails, there was no repercussion other than a warning, since the Justice Department decided not to file criminal charges, saying, quote, "Poor judgment is not a crime." The IRS knows there will be no repercussions in this case as well. The government will do what it always does. It will investigate itself and find that it did nothing wrong. But put yourself or your company in the shoes of the IRS and knowingly delete files that are protected under a court order and see what happens to you. You will be fined heavily, and you will be held in contempt of court and likely spend some time behind bars for it. But by virtue of being a government agency, the IRS is above the law. In It's Up to the Government to Keep You from Being Triggered news, the U.S. Patent Office shut down a Norwegian underwear brand from selling their product in the U.S. under their current name of Comfyballs. The product, touted as the pinnacle of testicular technology, is too offensive to be sold in the U.S., since apparently we are much more prudish than the UK, Scandinavia, Australia, and New Zealand, where the product is already sold. The U.S. Patent Office says, quote, "In the contents of the applicant's goods, Comfyballs means one thing, that a man's testicles or balls will be comfortable in the applicant's undergarments. The mark does not create a double entendre or other idiomatic expression. When used in this way, the word balls has an offensive meaning." Now, this is ludicrous. If I'm offended by Comfyballs, then I won't buy Comfyballs. The government should, as in all things, stay the hell out of this and let the market decide. If this is offensive to enough people, then market pressure would cause a name change pretty rapidly. If not, then it won't. Either way, having a nanny state tell us what we may or may not be triggered by is much more disgusting and offensive than Comfyballs. So last week, I got to talk about breasts. This week, it's balls. What on earth will next week bring? You'll have to tune in to find out. In Speaking of Disgusting news, the FBI operated a child porn website for 2 weeks, allowing over 215,000 people access to 23,000 sexually explicit images and videos of children, including 9,000 files that users could download directly from FBI servers. The operation, whose details remain largely secret, was at least the third time in recent years that FBI agents took control of a child pornography site but left it online in an attempt to catch users who officials said would otherwise remain hidden behind an encrypted and anonymous computer network. In each case, the FBI infected the sites with software that punctured that security, allowing agents to identify hundreds of users. That approach is a significant departure from the government's past tactics for battling online child porn, in which agents were instructed that they should not allow images of children being sexually assaulted to become public. The Justice Department has said that children depicted in such images are harmed each time that they're viewed, and once those images leave the government's control, agents have no way to prevent them from being copied and recopied to other parts of the internet. Out of more than 215,000 registered users on the site, the FBI says that over 100,000 accessed the site during this 2-week period, netting them 1,300 true email addresses and only 137 people charged with a crime. So the FBI allowed thousands of images of child porn to spread further into the wild to catch 137 people. Worth it? Not so much. This is beyond the pale. In getting their just desserts news, the British Board of Film Classification had to sit through every single second of a 600-minute long film of white paint drying on a wall. The film, titled Paint Drying, was started as a crowdfunding campaign to protest the unfair cost for independent filmmakers who want their work released in the UK. His crowdfunding money covered the nearly $6,000 in fees necessary to get the British Film Board, the equivalent of the Motion Picture Association of America, to give it a rating. Last Tuesday, the BBFC declared that the film was U for no material likely to offend or harm, presumably because the film is literally just 10 hours of paint drying and nothing else. A film effectively can't be shown in the UK without a BBFC certificate, although the movie maker is completely aware that more or less no one ever would want to watch his film all the way through anyway. He admits that he didn't watch his own film all the way through. The BBFC submission fee is 101.5 British pounds per film, with an additional charge of 7.09 pounds for each minute of the film's length. That cost typically runs at about £1,000 per feature film, a cost that can be prohibitively expensive for independent filmmakers who distribute their films themselves. In arbitrary laws news, just days ahead of the blizzard on the East Coast, New Jersey officially repealed a nonsensical rule banning the shoveling of snow without a license. Governor Chris Christie on Tuesday signed a bill making it legal for New Jersey residents to offer snow shoveling services without first registering with their town. Last year, 2 entrepreneurial teens going door to door and offering to shovel snow for a small fee were stopped by local police in Bound Brook. The cop told the 2 boys, Matt Molinari and Eric Schnepp, that they were not allowed to solicit businesses without a permit. In Bound Brook, that license costs $450 and is only good for a period of 180 days. The bill removes only licensing requirements for snow shoveling services and only applies to solicitations made within 24 hours before a predicted snowstorm. Towns with laws prohibiting door-to-door solicitation will be able to enforce those laws in all other circumstances. This is nothing more than an income generation and a crony capitalism law for New Jersey. While I'm glad that it was relaxed for this storm, the fact that it was relaxed at all just shows the arbitrary and capricious nature of this law, and shows that voluntary agreements between people for snow shoveling is much more efficient and sensible than government edict. In speaking of the blizzard news, the city of Washington, D.C. took the opportunity of the blizzard to make some money, and a lot of it, by imposing fines and tickets worth more than $1.5 million. New figures released by the district showed that 5,479 cars along snow emergency routes got tickets, at a princely sum of $250 per ticket, and 690 cars were towed, adding $100 to the ticket cost, plus an impound storage fee of $20 per day. Now, I imagine in a true capitalist society, the owner of those roads would find much more value in trying to come to a peaceful resolution to this problem, rather than stealing the property of citizens and forcing them to pay large fines to get their property back. In government nullification news, Canadian Judge Pierre Chevalier has issued a very symbolic ruling in a marijuana possession case, fining Mario LaRouche $1.30 Canadian for having 30 marijuana plants in his home. Judge Chevalier said, "We are in a society where people are accused of possession and of use of marijuana while more than half the population has already consumed. These are laws that are obsolete and ridiculous. When one is in the presence of laws which would have more than half of the population have a criminal record in Canada, and probably most crown attorneys and defense and perhaps judges, but I will not comment on that. 46-year-old Mario LaRouche had tried numerous times to get a prescription for medical marijuana, unsuccessfully. So few doctors are willing to prescribe marijuana for pain relief, despite the mountains of evidence proving its effectiveness without the disastrous side effects of prescription painkillers. This forced Mr. LaRouche to break the law in order to treat his pain. Chevalier protested Canada's system. Quote, "Monsieur is in a broken system where it does not give people access to a natural medicine that goes back centuries, millennia," end quote. A government judge protesting the government by effectively nullifying the law in this case? Brilliant. Now, when will U.S. judges start stepping up and doing this? Well done, Chevalier. Well done. In legalized theft news, apparently not satisfied with the already obscene amounts of cash and other stuff that our government takes from Americans each year under the guise of civil asset forfeiture, the DEA hired a TSA agent to rifle through airline passengers' luggage looking for cash that the drug agency could confiscate. Here's how the process worked. Quote, "An investigative summary posted this month by the Justice Department's Inspector General criticizes the Drug Enforcement Agency for hiring a federal airport security screener to help find sizable cash in passengers' luggage. Under the arrangement, the DEA designated the screener a, quote, confidential source and promised him a cut of any money he found while rummaging through people's bags. So not only did the TSA agent get paid for facilitating what basically amounts to legalized federal theft, but he was incentivized to find suspicious money, because the more that he found, the more he'd earn. The DEA could not have come up with a more unethical situation if they'd tried. Quote, "This really is what we see every day around the country," explained Robert Everett Johnson of the Institute for Justice. Quote, "When law enforcement takes property using civil forfeiture, law enforcement is able to keep that property and use it to fund their budgets, and in many cases, even to pay the salaries of people who are overseeing the forfeitures," end quote. This creates an obvious financial incentive to take property from people who haven't done anything or haven't been proven to have done anything wrong, he added. It creates an incentive for all kinds of abuse. And we're talking big money. Quote, "Between 2004 and 2009, Philadelphia alone collected some $36 million by civil forfeiture, mainly from young black men. Long Island police took in $31 million in a single year. The state of Virginia seized assets and cash worth more than $18 million in 2013 alone. In the same year, Michigan's civil asset forfeiture profits topped $16 million. And the state of Texas in 2013 took a whopping $106 million from its citizens. In fact, in 2014, federal agents used civil asset forfeiture to confiscate more money and property from Americans than burglars took. I talked about this a few weeks ago on the show, and it just makes me sick. I have in my queue right now a topic for What's Rustling My Jimmies on civil and criminal asset forfeiture. But that's one that's going to take a lot of research to nail it down just right. So give me a few weeks and I'll do a deep dive into this topic. In Canada quackery news, a Quebec man spent 3 days in jail rather than pay fines over an undocumented cat that wasn't even his. Dan Smith opted for jail instead of paying $326 in fines for the feral cat. The cat, who his estranged wife began feeding 12 years ago, is a feral cat they call Winnie. Smith says he doesn't even live at the home with his wife anymore, and that the cat never belonged to him in the first place. If it belonged to anybody, it belonged to his wife. Now, this is why I say every law is backed up by force. This man is being kidnapped and locked in a cage for 3 days for not paying some stupid-ass arbitrary fine imposed by the government. Remember that the next time that you call for some asinine bullshit law. every law is backed up by the gun. Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
Ancap Apps.
If you're into digital currency, a new app is out that will help you keep track of many different alternative digital currencies in a single location. Coinami, a free app available right now for Android and coming soon to iOS and Windows Desktop, is a phone wallet for storing and keeping track of your various currency. Coinami allows you to keep up with many different coins that you may have, from Bitcoin to Blackcoin, from Dogecoin to Dash, from Namecoin to Nubits, and allows you to convert from one coin to another on the fly in the app. As they say on their site, quote, "No more need to keep and maintain all sorts of wallets on your devices and having to go through the pain of having to deal with unsynchronized, bandwidth and storage demanding, slow, and non-responsive wallet apps." The Coinami wallet is highly secure, using strong public cryptography and best industry practices. They also ensure your privacy by making sure that no personal details ever go through them and by hiding your IP address from the rest of the world when pushing your transactions through to the blockchain. Coinami is also open source, meaning the code can be reviewed by anyone to suggest changes, ensure that there is no hidden or malicious code, and no exploits. On top of security, the versatility of Coinami makes it very attractive. You can use any of your altcoins in the wallet to pay directly to your Bitcoin address and vice versa. Need all of your money in Ruby Coin to buy something? Pay all of your altcoins and Bitcoins to your Ruby Coin wallet easily and quickly through a single click process. You can also easily convert from one coin to another anytime you need to. Another really cool feature for those of you who are worried about the volatility of many alternative coins. You can turn your coins to Nubits through Coinami's integrated exchange. Nubits are pegged to the US dollar at a 1-to-1 ratio, so one Nubit is equal to $1 US in value. Unlike other wallets, with Coinami and Nubits, you can have your funds locked without leaving them exposed to hackers and shutdowns at an exchange, as Nubits will be kept at all times in your device. This wallet looks very nice and seems to run very smoothly based on the feedback I've seen. Designed with an easy-to-use interface, even your altcoin ignorant aunt could use this. And like I said, it's completely free. There is no charge for the app, and there is no fee for accepting or sending payments. Since I have an iOS device, I can't test this wallet out myself yet, but I will be installing it as soon as it's available. You can check out all the features of Coinami and download it now to your Android device at coinami.com. That's COINOMI.com. Thanks, Nick, for submitting this to me as an idea for the show. Much appreciated. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my eternal Netflix and chill partner, Jessica, for her help with this show. For the show notes to this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/29. And I have yet another new iTunes review this week. This one comes from @DT Clifford. A real libertarian. I love seeing the world through Roger's libertarian lens. I do have one big issue, though, and it's that I want more. A few weeks back, I became a patron and started per-episode contributions, and I would encourage others to do the same if they share my yearning for more. Wow, that is an awesome review. Thank you, DT, not only for the review, but also for being a patron. That's incredible, and it means more to me than you will ever know. Now, to satisfy your yearning for more, there may be a surprise coming up for all of my listeners. Anyone who wants to catch this surprise, be sure to subscribe to The Lava Flow using any podcatcher, and you will get the surprise automatically on the feed. and it will likely be sometime this week, so stay tuned. I would love to have more reviews. If you want to leave me a review, which I will read on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/iTunes. Every review that I get helps others find this podcast. So please, if you can, go give us a rating and a review. And if you, like DT Clifford, want more of the Lava Flow and to keep this show ad-free, exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon or Bitcoin through Coinbase. There are monthly costs associated with doing this show, and I need additional equipment to continue making this show better for you every single episode. Right now, I'm sitting at 38.5% of the way towards bringing you more content every week. Help me get closer to my first goal by going to thelavaflow.com/support. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.